The last point that you made was, again, looking at money now being sort of objectified in society, and it almost is like the defining factor to, you know, that relationship between status and where we are in society. You know, depending on, again, all the very materialistic type, type objects, the car. You know, we mentioned the bottling of Evian water, and these kind of corporate institutions placing a value by the things that we own. So moving on from that, if there is value in money, then as a community, you know, how can we then be more conscious about where we put our money and how we invest and how we just go about spending every day? You know, is there any points that you'd like to make on that?
Well, I kind of first of all believe that if people understand the whole idea of how the capitalist market came into place,
yeah,
so it's that way, because we can't eradicate this model.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. It's like saying, oh, let's get rid of money. If it's there, how do we now subvert in the way that we should now say, well, if the money is going out, because remember, the money or whatever objects or whatever kind of products, you know, were invested in Africa from years back. First it was people were taken out. Then it became raw materials taken out.
So just to go back to that point, so the creation of that capitalist imperialism, people were money. That was the currency of the time.
That was the currency, and every single century, or I'm not very good with dates. We had colonialism, well, we had the slavery, which finished. After that, there was something else that was grafted, because you see, it's always about grafting. It's not about, oh, this stopped, let's think of something else. It's actually a continuum, but it has to be done subtly, or more sophisticated, and refined, actually, and it's even a lot easier. Moving people was hard work. If you're moving raw material, it's actually a lot easier. So what we need to do now is understand that, how do we stop all this, because they're part of what is, what builds the nation. The more you're depleting the land, you're depleting people, that's resources gone. You're depleting the raw material, that's resources gone. What about the people on the ground? You're killing them. You're killing a source, a livelihood, a living organism. How do we retain now? How are we now going to retain all of this? Keep the raw materials within the nation, because that's what feeds the nation. How do we keep the people within the nation? Because now you have, me and you, or me, myself, leaving and not coming back. People leave, and it's like you're taking this, what they call the...
you're taking the soul out of the country. The soul
out of the country. And that's exactly the word. And what we're trying to now say is, how do we keep the soul within the country? So if money is the way that we're now using as a standard with globalization, how do we keep the money, that resource within? Educate the people. Do you know where your money is going to? Do you know what you're actually sort of also enabling, because that's the word, for every time that I'm here, I'm contributing more to UK. I pay taxes in the UK. I'm paying UK taxes. Why can I not be on the ground, in my own continent, or at least, or doing work? And if I cannot be, how can I do work that will be of benefit to my own country, to my own continent, or to my own people? At least that way we know where the money is going.
Yes, or there's a chance that the reinvestment of it, the children can actually benefit from that.
Exactly, because that's also, because remember, the resources, is what strengthens a nation. Knowledge, people, a way of life, thinking, Europe was able, to build itself as,
A superpower.
as a superpower during the Enlightenment, where all of a sudden, Europeans actually had to kind of look at themselves to kind of form a new identity for Europe. So we can also go back and say we need to kind of look at within ourselves and form another identity, because if your nation is
other than the executioners of a grand plan,
exactly
of an imperialist plan,
because the whole idea of the imperialist plan was to go in to take the resources at any given cost
and then bugger off,
really, to actually strengthen their own nation. The raw materials were taken out of Africa to come and feed during the Industrial Revolution for the factories. The factories, they needed this raw materials. Now,
and there was a lot of, in fact, there were even a lot of European artists that, let alone African filmmakers who were looking at the crisis that was happening on the African psyche. Even the European psyche was sort of like all of these factories everywhere. It's the depleting the value of life. And disrupting people's everyday lives.
And it's this disruption that happens on a constant daily basis.
Yeah.
For every raw material taken out that's not being replenished. If you take out, then you put something back in. But what we're seeing is more of what we call an imbalance. This unequal imbalance that always happens all the time.
Yeah.
Ironically, I was looking at the imbalance of trade within the French, West Africa and Senegal, where Senegal was importing knowledge, actually getting the French to come in to sort out their economic systems for them, the banking system. They had technical assistance, coming in from France. They had actually the military, French military intelligence coming in to Senegal. And the only thing, and basically not for free, because all of this was services that were going back.
Well, that's what I was going to mention, that because you see, once you've got a vision of having a capitalist regime, you then have to fill in the blanks, and then these kind of posts become available, in order to establish that. And again, we looked earlier on about the invented science of ethnography.